The Majors are the most prestigious events in the Counter-Strike calendar. To win one writes your name into the history books, never to be forgotten. At the Rio Major, the two teams vying for their place in esports lore were Heroic and Outsiders. I'm KingT, and I'm going to be breaking down the key players, the key rounds, and the key tactical ideas that decided the Rio Major final. Mirage was one of the most CT-sided maps at the entire Major, with defences winning almost 60% of rounds available. Outsiders took the pistol and the subsequent conversions, giving them a solid start to their T half. Heroic clapped back with the first rifle round, but it wasn't until round 5 that we'd really set the tone for this first map of the grand final. The key to Mirage has been mid for the longest time, but these two IGLs took that idea to the extreme. To kick off the mid-war, Heroic whipped out an all-in set piece, crunching in from multiple angles to destroy the Outsiders' presence. Tessus and Jame pair up on short, the latter flashing into mid, and the former mollying underpass to prevent a lurker moving out and joining the fight. After that flash pops, Shush and Staven also push through the connector smoke, creating a 4-on-2 advantage for Heroic in mid. It's the young guns who frag, Staven slaying Flit, whilst Jame wins the duel of the prospects against Fame. Jame calls for the right reaction, sending the troops he has left to secure the A bomb site as Norbert starts trying to make a play into the Heroic backlines. The bomb goes down, but Norbert's lurk fails, as Tessus checks his 6 and catches him out. Jame and Kicker are able to make the 2v5 competitive, but the numbers are too many, and Heroic can close the round. Outsiders try to avoid mid in the following rounds, hoping to abuse what they perceive to be the weaker of the two bomb sites. Their snappy-inspired B rushes were, however, unsuccessful, so they went back to try and break that mid hold. The economy isn't ideal, so Outsiders give Fame a hero AK to operate with. Slowing down to avoid the initial mid timing fight, the CIS squad essentially show Heroic their own mid-crutch, but inverted. Fame leads the way through underpass with Norbert on his heels. Jame and Flip meanwhile sit at the top of middle, ready to pounce once Fame has found out what's going on. Fame gets a little fortune on the timing, but steps into the fight with Staven and Connector and blows his head off, causing Heroic's setup to crumble. Jame tries to retreat from his spot at the top of mid, but he's hesitant and gets caught by the original prospect. Tessus is able to respond with a nade kill, but the round has slipped too far from Heroic for them to recover, and they eventually concede it. Heroic had tricks up their sleeve to try and wrestle back the control of mid. One particularly cool idea was a nade stack that generated an opening frag in round 9. The idea showed that Heroic were cognizant of how Flit likes to set up in mid and had counters planned for rounds where they had the time and the space to get creative. Outsiders won a streak of 3 rounds from round 10 to round 12 to really secure the half in favour of themselves. The first 2 of these were gun rounds, and they were both decided by Fame's excellent play post-plant on the A bomb site. Round 10 starts to get spicy as Outsiders enter the later stages of an A split, with Fame and Flit coming up through Connector. They trade out 2 for 1, as Flit is able to take 1 scalp as he dies, and Fame trades to clear a path to the site. Jame plants the bomb, but goes down right after trying to cross to CT. This leaves Fame in a 1v2, but with neither Heroic player knowing his position. He holds his nerve, waiting patiently for Jame and Cadian to give themselves away. Feeling the timing, and knowing the CTs won't expect him to be in the same spot Jame tried to get to, he swings. Fame initially peeks stairs, a fight he can isolate, before going wider and taking out an unsuspecting Jame. Cadian then loses track of the young gun, taking plenty of time to clear out the bomb site itself, whilst Fame is actually still in CT. After allowing Cadian to play hide and seek with himself for a while, Fame puts the IGL out of his misery, winning the 1v2 to equalise to scoreline at 5 apiece. Round 11 was equally as impressive, though not an outright clutch like the round prior. In this round, both teams bluffed their mid controls, putting down smokes that would indicate a regular round, but not following up behind them. Outsiders take a gamble, with Kicker pushing his way out of apartments completely dry. Fame and Norbert follow up from ramp, and the combination of these 3 players take down Shush and CT. Outsiders pause to give Flit a chance to activate his lurk, but it's unsuccessful, with Staven taking him down from Connector Town. Jame gets a freebie onto Cadian, stepping into his scope, creating a 4-on-3. Heroic decide to go for it, as they have an agent in the backlines getting into position to strike. By the time Tessus' flank activates, the Outsiders have settled into their site control and are about to plant. He kills Jesus, but the comms on this Russian side are incredible. Fame swivels instantly, trading out his captain and maintaining the advantage. With the bomb now planted and Fame lingering near Connector, Heroic are hesitant to advance. Staven eventually does start taking the fights, but he can't convert them quick enough and Fame finishes him off. Jame finally makes his move for the murder hole, but guess who's there to greet him too? One of the key issues on Heroic's CT side was an inability to trade each other. This sounds more like a T side thing, but it definitely matters here. They often ended up getting isolated and picked off, as soon as the round started deviating from the plan. Some of this is likely due to poor communication and decision making on the big stage, as even the casual observer could tell there's a big difference in composure between the two rosters. The halftime score was only 8-7 in favour of Outsiders, but the momentum was clearly with them and Heroic needed to break it as quickly as possible. Heroic kicked off the second half exactly as they needed to, winning the pistol round thanks to an elaborate series of fakes. The next round is where their attempt to seize control of this map came completely crumbling down. Outsiders full force, dropping weapons over to Fame and Flit in order to give themselves the best possible chance to make those round-winning plays. Heroic attempt to contact out onto A pretty much completely dry, but Mr. F is holding the ramp from a slight off angle and can take out both Cadian and Jame. Heroic do eventually trade 2 back, but it's a slow process, and Norbert has time to wrap behind them into CT spawn. He drops Tesses, who was carrying the bomb, and mollies off the ramp, leaving Shush and Stown scrambling for a solution. Stown exposes himself, no offense to Hollywood, allowing Jame to knock his head off. Shush does give himself a chance at the 1v3, but can't get the second frag, and Outsiders bite right back. That momentum we brought up at halftime continues now to build in Outsiders' favour, and they streak 4 more rounds back to back. With the meta the way it is, and Outsiders looking prepared for anything Heroic had to throw at them, this game seemed pretty much finished at this point already. One of the biggest issues for Heroic was the mid-fight, an area where Outsiders excelled thanks to their 2 Fs, Fame and Flit. It took until round 22 for Heroic to find a breakthrough in this mid encounter. They injected some pace, getting Tessus into mid early. Fame comes up short as he so often did this game, mollying behind the boxes, then nading Tessus' position. Unfortunately for the youngster, the Dane picks this moment to swing, catching Fame unawares, opening up the round for Heroic. Flit tries to swing from connector to trade, but Stalvin has timed his peek from underpass perfectly to catch this exact move. With this control established, Heroic can now finish off the round with a nice little fake. A smoke to block off jungle, and a Molotov deep into window to fix the Outsiders A players for a moment, allows the Danes to make their way up short and into B. Outsiders decide to save, but Heroic have them boxed in, and every one of their weapons gets taken away. With a little belief restored, Heroic are able to get a few more rounds over the line, including a very impressive 3-on-5. But things got out of hand when Heroic eventually returned to mid. At 13-11, they tried to play a slower round, poking and prodding at mid, but taking a long time to fully commit to it. They eventually came crawling up underpass as a pack, led by Stown. Jame picks him off, but Cadian refrags as Jame re-peaks, activating the trap that Outsiders have set up for them. Flit gets the first, but it's Kicker who mops up the rest in one fell swoop. Disheartened by this absolute crushing, Heroic go for an A-split. The mid-prong encounters no resistance, allowing Shush to set up at top connector and Yabby to get deep into short. Shush tries to make the most of this by pushing the connector smoke and punishing a potential jungle player, but Flit wins the fight. Jame then picks off Yabby on short, and Heroic are left in a 3v5. They get the bomb down, but every frag gets traded perfectly, and Outsiders secure map point. Heroic managed to get one back, but Outsiders saved 3 weapons, and they were able to keep fighting for that 16th round. The game ended on a B rush. Outsiders went for an extremely heavy mid lane, so even if the B site starts empty, they are swift to realise what is happening, and are able to rotate back with great pace. Heroic trade their way into the site, but are unable to get a real advantage due to that swiftness of rotation. Stown can get one, but it's Jame and Kicker, 38 months after losing 2-0 to Astralis in Berlin, who close out map 1. The way these two IGLs committed to fighting in mid reminded me of this iconic Max Holloway fight. They decided their battleground and then just absolutely unloaded on each other. Many rounds were determined outright by these mid exchanges, with the teams taking it in turns to find huge multi-kills. In this map, we saw Fame truly come into his own, delivering fully on that potential I, and I'm sure certain others, saw in him over 18 months ago. His T-play was solid, but it was on the defense that he became absolutely unstoppable. We also saw both sides of James' impact, as he both outcalled and outfragged his opposing number in Cadian. For Heroic, this map was a slap in the face. Outsiders made them look like novices on their own map pick, exposing glaring flaws in the way they've decided to play this map. These two teams play an incredibly similar style of T-side, and the key to playing against it is not to bite too hard on any initial fakes. In the first half, Outsiders placed faith in their fraggers, always leaving a player behind when rotating away from a bomb site in order to catch out when he lurks and to be there in case of a big rotation. We saw this go to an extreme in round 4, as there were even 2 players still sat on B whilst a full A exec came through. They only started rotating up as the final trades are happening, arriving to a 2-on-2 with the bomb down. pretty impressive in terms of numbers there, as it started off as a 5-on-3 on that bomb site. They take it slow, causing Cadian to worry over a potential flank and allowing Flit to get a freebie. Tessus has to give away his position to trade, so Kicker is able to put him down and defuse. This policy was actually so effective that Heroic were only able to get a single gun round over the line on this Overpass T side. It must be noted, it didn't really seem like this would be the case after watching round 7. We open up with Shush silencing Fame in Connector, a position Fame had been able to find huge impact in only a couple of rounds prior. Norbert decides to jump spot to regain the info lost in Fame's death, but finds nothing other than Stound's bullet. Flit is able to catch Tessus in Monster, eliminating that lurker, but this time the A finish is too strong and Outsiders are forced to save. After this round though, Fame only returned to Connector on one single occasion, where again he died after minimal impact. In general, Heroic were allowed a substantial amount of map control. Outsiders instead held back in the bomb sites and awaited the eventuality of Heroic's pushes. When they did get aggressive, they did it in pretty offbeat ways that would have caught out almost any Overpass team. We jump to round 11, where Jame has called for a rather odd B setup. Flit mollies off pipe, and then leaves the connector door unbroken. This allows for him to get boosted up by Norbert to look into short. With the short water covered, Jame is able to push into the area and starts clearing the pipe with his AWP, gaining an immense amount of information. Finding no T's outside a Monster and hearing nothing in Connector, Jame calls for an A stack, intending to leave only Kicker on B. Here's a nice little detail. As Jame retreats from short, Norbert swings out to hold the connected door behind him, making sure that Jame can't go down cheaply. By the time the first wave of Heroic utility lands, there are 4 players waiting for them and a 5th is well on his way. Tessa's entries, but this is a single-pronged attack. Fame can hold the line from long, trading Tessa and taking attention away, whilst Flit absolutely cleans house. Fame gets one more on the AWP, before Yabi puts up a little resistance, but Fame closes it out with his triple. This happened over and over again as Outsiders maintained their numbers in the bomb sites and absolutely shut down the Heroic pushes. As the half drew to a close, it also became clear that Outsiders' comms were far cleaner. They recovered several man-down situations and were able to time their swings to perfection, whilst Heroic struggled to find any sort of clean trades and any rhythm between each other. The half ended with a perfect summation of all of these key ideas. Heroic take the map control that's been afforded to them, establishing long control and leaving Shush in toilets to prevent any re-aggressions. Stound tries to catch out the defenders by slipping through the long smoke, but Outsiders have already got 3 players in the site and Norbert can grab the frag. The Heroic play falters, which isn't aided by the lurk catcher Kicker taking down Yabi, who's still lingering around the B pipes. Heroic decide they're going to commit to the rotation back to B, but Outsiders are on the same page. Tessus goes 1 for 1, and the rest of the round is elementary for the CIS squad. Without a resounding pistol win for Heroic, this map would be over in a flash. Thankfully for the dozen or so fans in attendance who wanted to see a good game, we got that. Heroic completely shut down the Outsiders B play with some long-range headshots just to thin out the numbers, and then a complete collapse onto the bomb site. Unfortunately, something that's become a bit of the theme in this series is Outsiders being able to make things work with limited buys. It's round 18, and Outsiders have 4 AKs and a Tech 9, with maybe a 2/3 full set of utility. Outsiders use 2 smokes to get themselves close to the toilets, including a smoke at Fountain to avoid the gaze of a potential AWPer. This is something that wound me up a bit in the demos because I decided to go looking to see if this was a missed smoke or something they used often, and it turns out Outsiders basically don't throw 2 identical sets of util this entire half. Or in any T half of Overpass. Heroic have a heavy long setup though, and Cadian can take out Fame at the front of bathrooms. Norbert then takes a risk, stepping past the defensive smoke and being able to catch out Stound. From here, Outsiders can take A, planting the bomb before the trades start flying in. Heroic are up a man temporarily, but Flit lines up Shush and Cadian to bring the numbers back to even. Yabi is left in a 1v1 against Fame, but he can't outplay the wily IGL, receiving a bullet to the head to confirm the Russian Outcast's 13th. The next gun round will be the final nail in the coffin, even if Outsiders needed 2 more rounds to actually confirm the victory. Here we can examine the difference in understanding between the 2 leaders, as they try to play against each other's offense. Outsiders are operating on both extremities, as per usual. Whilst the main pack has regrouped and set up outside of Monster, Jame is still lurking around Fountain. The pack contact towards the site between the Monster smokes, with Norbert flashing behind them to allow for the fights. They trade 2 for 2, exchanging Yabi and Shush for Kicker and Flip. Alright, pause. Bring up the radar. Now from here, Outsiders have 2 main options. They can commit to the B play, turning Jame into a late round closer. Now this seems a bit risky. They'd have to secure the site, but seeing as Jame has found nothing at A, it's quite apparent that the heroic players are going to be in close proximity. Now the other option is to go for that rotation up to A, turning Jame into the deep lying entry. This fails the moment Jame goes down, overextending, or if there's a player sitting around on that A bomb site, but it's a risk they're willing to take. The rotation up begins, but Fame is left lingering in short to catch the heroic rotators. As the birds pull attention to the site above, Peter catches the Danish wolves below, even managing to grab a second and destroying the CT rotations. In the meantime, Jame's gotten extremely deep into the A bomb site, meeting Stan on the way up and dropping him before he can react. After this, Heroic have nothing left to give. Their spirits are broken, and Outsiders can close with relative ease. This grand final showed us how similar these two sides really are. Both are capable of playing layered and manoeuvring T-sides, and where Mirage was close, unfortunately, Overpass showed us the gulf between the two sides when it comes to understanding how to set themselves up on the defensive end. The mental game also played a huge part in this series, as Heroic entered looking nervous, and by the end looked completely broken and devastated. On the other side of the server, Outsiders seemed completely unrattled, like this was almost another practice, let alone the grand final of the Major. They didn't let the event, the enormity of it, or the pressure of the crowd get to them in any way. All in all, it wasn't the most thrilling final, but it had some great rounds, and for those who are familiar with the storylines, it was a really cool event to watch. Fame became the first prospect to ever win a major, and hopefully he'll be the first of many. For Kicker and Jame, this was redemption, as they had their underdog run at Berlin 2019 thwarted by the era-defining Astralis. Heroic were left heartbroken, but their follow-up win at the Blast, whatever the fuck, showed that they clearly are a team worthy of contending for titles, and also legitimised Outsiders as something other than a complete fluke when it comes to winning this major. If this final happened maybe a year later with slightly more experienced stars and an IGL who's been here and done it before, perhaps Heroic take it over the line, but unfortunately on this occasion, it wasn't to be. Alright, I've been KingT. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Sub if you want to see more, and leave a comment telling me your thoughts on this final. That's all for this one. I'm going to go watch France beat Morocco. Goodbye.